and I'm going to thin out the set just slightly, but still leave 9 poems, okay? So if you're counting. And mostly from the book, Bend and the Stair, but some others as well. So here's one, which I have read online for Stone Soup in like a round robin open mic, but here we go. And this is called The Bones. There they are again. My fingers spread across my face, probe the frame supporting the skin canopy. Those planes, arches, hinges, the central knoll, 2 kettle bowls, the full set of Yorick's teeth. The bones say, don't worry about your forehead furrows. Don't fret about your temple's mole-like spot. Don't be too obsessed about weed-wacky brows, raccoon eye rings, timples you never liked anyway, gone to crevasses. Nostril hair you prune and hate. Keep up the fight, but don't make it your life's mission. All that is decoration. And that covering you wear, your scant melanin allotment, first thing anyone sees of you? Listen, how many more favors will that wrapper buy before it melts? We, the bones, care nothing for your fragile drapery. So I've got, from when I read from this book, I often kind of open up with this one because it's affirmative, and it has a lot to do with, in fact, it has everything to do with where I live in Jamaica Plain, and where I have lived.
Where is that, anyways?
Where do I live?
Jamaica, yeah.
I live very near Stony Brook Station. I live on Mozart Street, very close to Stony Brook. And James has lived in that house.
Yeah.
In the 80s, James lived in that house, in the same house. And James knows my wife and has for a long time.
I had a sister who lived at School Street.
Yes, okay, so not far. Yeah. So anyway, this is titled simply From a House. I come from a house built within whiff of breweries now corked, set at the crotch of a valley whose brook now runs within tubes. House laughing with tailors, machinists, and trainmen. The light really is dim. I'm gonna stand up, not to be formal, but just to get under more light.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay. House laughing with tailors, machinists, and trainmen. Brooding with. Oh God, I'm sorry. This really is tough. I'm gonna see. Very professional, but honest to God, I wrote this poem. I don't have any meaning. I'm sorry. Let's hold up the proceedings here.
No worries. Let's see what we can do.
I can stand behind you with the light.
Or you can sit.
There we go.
Yeah, I'd like to keep the informal thing going. So let's sit down. Yeah, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. All right. Oh, perfect. It's perfect. All right. And we are tech to the max. So we'll start.
We found a way.
We'll start again. From a house. I come from a house built within whiff of breweries now corked, set at the crotch of a valley whose brook now runs within tubes. House laughing with tailors, machinists, and trainmen, brooding with knitters, waiters, furniture movers, birthday full of chauffeurs and iron workers, vacated by painters, insurance clerks, stagehands. I come from a house traded and kept by Doyle, Ryan, Daly, multiple Murphys, by and by Zuber and Zwerdling, doorbelled with Jaime, Rosado, Vasily, rent fretted by Baez, Kirakouse, Van Loy, trudged home and paced overhead by Dugan, Rodriguez, Solcida, where homecomers shook off their days of National Shawmut, Somerset Hotel, Frank's Lunch, Chimes Brownies, wafted their dinners or scooped them from cans. I come from a house where I came to my she out of thin air, my karate heroine, siren of newspaper personals. I come from a house of quadruple mortgages when flappers verged on bread lines. A house whose glass eyed Downy Flake donuts, house shield distilled spirits, Roxbury mattress. A pox after that of emptying lots. I come from a house bought out from under city condemning, its price nailed to the porch, upper third hollowed of walls and plumbing. A house with decades of martial art foot landings, massaged hard into blonde polish, that held itself free from sparks from the torched mattress, nay, stringed instrument factory. The lot's palimpsest soil turned up tubes of catgut. I come from a house with bedroom, carpeted, floor to ceiling, a flipped shower where cold is code word for hot. A house where 4 now go out and come back with a homebody mouse. Surprised in the kitchen, it dives down a burner. A house rooted on thickness of pudding stone. A house that shares the water of earth in its basement. A house that stirs in its sleep with the passage of night trains. And the reference to the mouse is historical because lately we've been trapping a whole bunch of mice on our floor. We've taken out about 8 mice over the course of 2 weeks. Yeah, I think we're rid of the mice now. But so going. Thank you. Now I think I can read the next one by myself because it's mostly from the. Well, we'll see. Thank you. Yeah, that's really handy. This is newish. Yeah, thank you. Actually, it really does help. So thank you.
It helps with the lighting of the filming too.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good. That's great. I heat my fingers on the covered bridge stoneware mug. A cut paper lotus flower sits on the window rail. November condensation sun glitters through its open petal shapes. Beneath the table, the jeans I wear fade silently as food scraps in a bucket, onion skins, gone by coleslaw, prepare their afterlife as compost. Earlier this morning, dreams I'm not sure I had troubled my body. The pencil's tip rubs the notebook, strokes graphite sounds against my fingertips. Outside, bare tree limbs flow to their trunk like a watershed. Our neighbors in back have unbolted their Sukkot booth. All this while the heater purrs. All this while with the yard brown, crackled, the mug turned chill. Warming air passes across my bare hands, and I want to know, what was that slid away from me? Goodbye, fitful pictures. Back to the book. Much of the book has to do with my late parents, my father particularly, but not only. So my mother also. So near the front of the book, it's the second poem actually of the book, there is this kind of retrospective. The story so far. You made it past the kitchen cockroaches, some play-acted fumbles at adultery, past the DOA MA that tripped you down the garden path to part-time jobs in slapdash fragments. You made it past the divorce, then 5 years in a gnat cloud of stillborn lusts. Past the landlord lineup, a cul-de-sac of bosses. You even made it past a profession, professor. You survived your mother's vacant decay, sat with your father's final heartbeat, and you haven't died yet. In the sequel, you junk their address labels, abort his phone bill, waste paper their church programs, adopt his litter of bookmarks. The proof you're still alive is your first sighting of your mother's high school pictures with her love note in his sock drawer. However, a few years before I began my work as executor for my parents, but a little after my mother had died, here is Sunrises with My Father in 2 parts. 1. My father settled in a place where he could walk outdoors outdoors all year, made it his pleasure to help the old folks. Retired, but barely stepped across that definite senior discount line, he arose each Florida's pre-dawn, traced on foot the route the paper boys followed, to fling the Sarasota Herald Tribune lightly at the ends of driveways. If these neighbors were the definite elders, my parents were numbered among the youngers. He knew the old ones by name, knew which of them needed their news carried to their porches. Warmth and moisture soothed his lungs, grown rasping with Massachusetts freeze. 20 minutes walk before the sun burst out, with its own baggage, helped to shrink a belly pointlessly enlarged. I wanted to know something beyond the tourist guides about this place, so easy, soft, and alien. Some mornings on our visits near the solstice, those shortened days, oddly considered cold, I'd rise and dress in darkness, shielding my wife's shut eyes against marauding light. Fumble to the living room to meet him. Off we'd set, do-gooders at the end of night, returned for coffee as bands of red lifted above the roofs. 2. 20 years downstream, my father, a widower, one of the elders, still met the early hours before I cared to. I'd fumble out to meet him, his head crooked back on the rose-pink recliner, shut-eyed after first caffeine. The other olds now fended on their own for headlines dropped at their driveway's ends. The younger elder, I stepped into light for one minuscule good deed, fetched the paper for his second waking, or his third. Going back a few years to my mother's parents and their home. Actually quite a number of years. Dinosaur. Pterodactyl in bronze. Patina mellows your wings and belly. Centered in my palm, your wingtips press the flesh of thumb and little finger. Immovable in flight, tabletop glider. How do I deserve you? Remnant memory of my professor grandfather's study. When I was a boy, I found you on the desk, held you, felt myself even more his grandson. You and the dainty, woolly mammoth ruffed of wood, I lifted him, held him to my nose. Both of you, calm oddments of prehistory, sleepers at night with the genetics journals. What allowed me to carry you away when my grandparents departed? 34 years after the next owners filled that house with themselves, I drive past. The front porch is walled, its street face shut. Something inside must still know me. The bend in the stair, ascending to the study, knows who I was, remembers the extinct creatures. I took the marble dining chairs and table. I have the 17th century Bible, the Mammoth. I took you, burnished dinosaur, green in my hand. And something about my father again, and followed by something about my mother. Another poem in 2 parts. His mouth. 1. Have you thought about dying? This is the pulmonologist's voice from a room at the other end of the ICU. I can see a pair of loved ones just inside that portal, looking toward their someone in the bed who may answer with a quiet word or look. We can't tell. My brothers and I are waiting for the pulmonologist. We stand outside my father's room for 45 minutes, saying nothing, facing his sedated silence. When a baby is born in this hospital, Brahms' lullaby in digital tinkling murmurs from the intercom. 2 newborns arrive somewhere as we watch my father's chest rise and sink. Jagged lines trace the screen behind him. too. His mouth pried open with tubes for his lungs and gut. He nods his head at the pulmonologist's questions. Does he want the tubes out? Does he know what that means? We are dismissed for 20 minutes. We return to his bed behind drawn goldenrod curtains. His mouth empty of plastic, gaped and free, his body unwired. My brothers tell me they see movement beneath the light blanket at his chest. I don't. But many years before that, go back in time, my mother loved the sound of music.
She what?
Loved the sound of music. The movie, the stage show, she adored it. I enjoy it. She adored it. So at one point, my
That was
parents...
Ronald Reagan's favorite. That was Nancy's favorite.
Hey, well, you know, and my mother too, who aces Nancy. But anyway, so at one point, in the mid 2000s, in that decade, they took a trip to the Austrian Alps, and they went up to the Austrian Alps, and this followed.
The Trapp family.
Yeah, not the Trapp family lodge in northern Vermont either.
No.
But yeah. So here we are. Meadowtop 2006, and this is a photograph. Okay. Meadowtop 2006. Mother's arms flow a wide beeline, spread from her shoulders like hawk wings. Jacket of patchwork and bands, snow-toned cobalt blue. Loose sleeves gather mountain sky. Dad's lens mirrors her hues with the Austrian Alps, a screenplay in layers of mantles behind her. Glasses and smile canted to sunlight, grass anchored, heart choired. After Julie Andrews wheeled on the widescreen, with her arms splayed like that, singing "The Hills Are Alive," picture my mother safeguarded. This truly happening instant. How could she not sing for it and spin? Yeah. And so I will conclude with outside of the book, and with something which is still quite contemporary. And I know I've done this on Zoom, but to a passerby's tossed medical waste. Hello, today's disposable mask, flat-winged on the sidewalk, visitor just outside my gate. Innocent, but abandoned, poor thing. Anonymous as a blank calling card, you're forced to bear the taint of dropping, with thanks to someone who scorned what dog walkers know. After the clampdown began, how many hours passed before these dainty Icaruses appeared face down like you, spread-eagled, decorating the city? Or was it minutes? Not to be touched without latex gloves or tongs, and thrown gloves also, greeting everyone with random gestures, twisting crawly hands, asking for spare change or the next dance. This morning it's you, individual, nameless one, with personal traces of long waste, saliva, mouth stain, and whatever waited on the pavement to kiss your blank expression. Rejected keeper of human breath, ear loops splayed from sky blue bands, spurned, prostrate. Come with me. I'll inter you with the others, bagged beneath my porch. That's it. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. I just do that myself. I'm quite pleased to be here. It's reflexive.
It's like everyone at the Oscars. Oh, I'll applaud for myself.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I could. Yeah. Well, I'm just.